weren't unable to join us this evening. So I'm going to move ahead to some expectations for the evening. As I mentioned, we will be recording this so we can share with students to have access after we've wrapped up. This will also be available to you who are attending this evening in the Teams chat once we wrap up. Please do keep your microphone muted throughout the session. You may use the chat, and Katie and Emma will be helping me to facilitate any questions that you have in the chat. And if you'd prefer, you're welcome to ask that question verbally. Just use the raise your hand feature in Teams, which you can find under the hand and smiley face icon in the top center of your chat screen. And lastly, do feel free to use the open question and answer, as I mentioned, in the chat, and we'll continue to check throughout the session. And if we haven't addressed it throughout the session, we will definitely make sure that we come back to those questions by the end. Okay, let's get started. So here's our agenda for tonight. I'd just like to begin by checking in with you all, and then we can jump into the content. We'll take about 20 to 30 minutes to go through that content, and then we can dedicate the rest of the time to specific question and answer. But as we begin, let me go back to just checking in. How is everyone feeling today? Feel free, with regard to fair prep, how are you feeling today? Feel free to jot some of those thoughts into the chat or raise your hand to unmute and share with us. Yeah, I agree. Alicia mentions excited to learn about opportunities. I noted that I'm super excited. We have over 210 employers attending. We feel excited, or I feel excited about this. Anyone feeling a little bit nervous about the fair? We got excited to learn. I'm also enjoying, yes, some of that nervousness. I always share in full disclosure, as much as I get excited about the fairs, they can feel overwhelming, and even though it's my job to network all day, it feels a little bit overwhelming to think about connecting with new people. Good jitters, yes, it's almost that excitable anxiousness. So I'm glad to hear that. We have some mix of feelings, but the next 5 sections of our agenda, I think, will help us feel as prepared as we can. So we're going to start with, what is this whole fair about? What's the format? Kind of reviewing what you can expect on Wednesday. We'll talk about tips for preparing between now and Wednesday, and even preparing on the spot, if you will, during the virtual fair. In part 4, we're going to talk about that participation in the fair itself. What do you need to do? There are some steps that you need to make sure you complete prior to Wednesday, or at least before 2 p.m. when the fair kicks off on Wednesday. And then we'll talk about, what does success mean for you, and how do you achieve that at the Career Exploration Fair on Wednesday. Like I said, we're going to wrap up after about 20 or 30 minutes with open Q&A. So if you have a question, don't hold it, drop it in the chat. And as I mentioned, Katie and Emma will help me make sure that we're getting to it, and they'll chime in too with their experiences as they have feedback to share. But at the end too, if something's come up, please don't hesitate to raise your hand or type it in the chat. Okay, so we already did the check-in on how we're doing. So let's talk about, what is the Virtual Career Exploration Fair. As I already mentioned, there's really good news. There are many, many employers. In fact, 214 of them are registered to attend the fair today, and they're waiting to connect with you. The virtual fair, the Career Exploration Fair, is virtual, so it is a synchronous, meaning real-time, virtual fair happening in Handshake. So if you haven't already signed up and registered for the fair, I'm going to show you how to do that as we get into the logistics, but you'll want to make sure that you have done that. We'll talk about how you connect on the 22nd from 2 to 6 p.m. with our employers, because this is an opportunity for you to connect about specific positions and openings, as well as learn more about organizations. So there are companies, there are grad programs, organizations attending through group sessions. So we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between what is a one-on-one session as well as a group video session. As I mentioned, the fair is September 22nd from 2 to 6 p.m. That's the footprint or the time frame of the fair. You don't have to attend all 4 hours. In fact, with a virtual fair, you get to choose your time slots for which you will attend. So one-on-one sessions offer 10 minutes in length where you get just what it sounds like, that one-on-one interaction with an organization, an employer, recruiter, grad program. And group sessions are very similar, but they're groups, so they can have up to 30 other participants in them for the same 30-minute session. And so the difference in the group session is there will be more information sharing with you and other members of the group. And in the one-on-one session, you'll have more of a dialogue. I like to liken it or kind of think back to our in-person fairs. The one-on-one session might have felt like or might be connected more to what it was like if you walked up or came up to one of the information tables, the employer tables, and had that first dialogue with an employer. A group session might be more like what you will see if an employer or a recruiter partner might present to a student organization to which you might belong. One thing we recommend always for this fair is an updated Handshake profile. So we're going to talk about what that means to be successful for this particular fair, but that's going to be making sure that you have your interests set, that you have different privacy settings open so that the employers can connect with you. And we'll also talk about the video and audio requirements and capabilities, because the employers can, and many will, use the Handshake interface, much like we're using Teams this evening, to conduct those one-on-one and group sessions. Other times they will put in a link to something very similar. Could be Teams, might be Zoom, or other Cisco, WebEx, things like that, platforms that you'll connect with them directly in those. But Handshake is the portal where you will learn and discover how to make those connections. So as I mentioned, when you're preparing or getting ready over the next couple of days before 2 o'clock on the 22nd, what you want to do is take a look at your Handshake profile and make sure that it is as up to date as it possibly can be. You'll see Handshake tries to give you some feedback about what that completion is of your profile. At a minimum, you want to consider having a headshot or an image, which you can see you can toggle on these small pencil indicators to upload. A headline, something about your journey, so that gives information about what you might be seeking. So Julie, as our example here, is listed a Kent State education student looking for impacting students' lives. I might put something specific to me, Kristen Williams, Kent State business student looking for internship in accounting for spring 2022. Think about it as the ways that we might talk about preparing our LinkedIn headline if we've done that, or even thinking about an objective on a resume. This is small, concise, and short kind of messaging, but it's that first piece of information that an employer is going to be able to see. So not only can you see if your privacy settings are set, I'll talk through this, not only can you see the employers, that's 100% you can see them, but they, depending on their privacy settings, can and will also look out at our student Handshake profiles, and many of them, some of you may already have received these messages, will reach out to you, encouraging you to participate in their group and one-on-one sessions. Some of the ways that they're doing that they're determining how to make those outreaches are related to these other two pieces of profile that we want to make sure you're considering updating. Your education. If you can, make sure that that includes an estimated graduation year. Many of the elements of your profile, including your major, your class level, and your GPA will pull in to Handshake. At Kent State, you're not assigned a graduation year in our student information system automatically until you have applied for graduation. So what does that mean? If I'm a junior and I know that I'm graduating in May of 2023, that's not pulling in automatically. So this is a piece of my profile that I can click on that little pencil icon and enter that. Why is that important? If I am an employer or you are looking to connect with employers who are specifically looking for someone graduating in that time frame, this is going to be at a glance information for them. So make sure that education piece is updated. And again, you can edit that anywhere you see that little pencil icon. It'll also be over here in this education area. And then work and volunteer experiences. You can see just from this snippet here of a screenshot that this might mimic, and in many ways it will very much mimic, what your resume looks like. So maybe not as in-depth, but certainly for most recent opportunities, you want to make sure that it is showcasing the types of experiences that you have. So if you need help with that over the next couple of days, we do have some drop-ins available, and I'll ask Emma to post the drop-in link. It tells you where and how you can meet with us. Those are a combination of in-person as well as virtual options between now and the fair. And then lastly, you can see that we want you to consider updating your interests on Handshake. So let's look at that. You'll see this pop up in your profile. You want to keep those up to date. And Handshake tells us that there are 3 most important elements for an employer when they're looking, or an organization, when they're looking at your Handshake profile. So job type, what kind of job are you looking for? You can be looking for more than one. You can have more than one job interest. So you may have full-time and internship listed. You might have part-time and on campus listed here. The next most important is the location. Where do you want to work? What cities? You could have 1, you might have 10. All of these help our employers, especially in different geographies, kind of know what might appeal to you. The beauty of Handshake, at least in my experience in working with it, is that we have a new ability, because Handshake connects with thousands, hundreds of thousands even, of employers globally. We have a new ability to connect you beyond our geography, but we have a rich opportunity to keep you connected here in Northeast Ohio if that's what you're looking for. So there is no limit or minimum, as I stated. This may simply say Cleveland and Akron. It could also say a much wider footprint of localities, and they will be listed by city. This is a drop-down list where you start typing that city in Handshake, and this information will then populate. And then thirdly, what kind of roles are you interested in working in? I realize right now as I'm looking at this, you can see it's duplicated and it says, where do you want to work? It should say, what kind of roles are you interested in? Roles will populate based on kind of conglomerate of job title information. So they're not job titles specifically, they're meant to be kind of more industry specific roles, but they will feel a little bit like job titles. You don't have to have that list narrowed down to 3. But I would consider trying to keep that list somewhere in the 10 to 15 range just for this exercise. Again, I'll reiterate, if you would like some assistance with that, please, by all means, feel free to chime into our drop-in sessions over the next couple of days. Now, how do you update all of that? I'm going to talk to you about having a public profile setting for the fair specifically, but in the past 2 slides, if you were simply wondering, how do I update my profile in general to get at those 3 most important tips I shared, as well as to update your education, if you are looking in Handshake, you will see either an image, as you see here, or your initials up in the top right of your screen. To simply update your profile, which would include those interests and your education, you would click on the My Profile. What we're looking at in this setting, this slide in particular, is our settings and privacy. This goes back to that tip I mentioned earlier about having employers be able to proactively reach out to you. So our settings and privacy, when I click on that, I'll see this next side of the screen over here, have 3 different elements: private, can apply for jobs, just as it mentions, but your profile is not open to employers. Employers, this setting means your profile can be visible and you will receive, you can receive potentially messages about job opportunities. Community is kind of the widest availability of profile settings. This is necessary. This particular setting is necessary to enact the full FAIR in the virtual setting capabilities. So you can change this at any time. So if you want to go back to private, you can do that. If you don't want to open it up to community until 1:59 on Wednesday, you can do that. But it is necessary for the FAIR that you would select community, because this is going to allow you to send and receive messages. This is important because although it also will allow you to do that with students and alumni across the Handshake platform, it's also going to allow you to do that with employers. So again, if this is something that you find you're having difficulty with, please let us know and stop into a drop-in, and we will help you make sure that that privacy setting is updated for the FAIR on the 22nd. After the FAIR, as I mentioned, you can go right back into those settings and privacy within your profile and change it back, toggle it back to whichever setting is most comfortable to you. So let me take a break there. I haven't looked over at the chat. Any questions or comments that have come in so far, or anything right now? Okay, well, Katie and Emma, just keep me posted. I'm going to hop back in here and I won't be able to see the chat. So next, after we've updated our profile, we want to make sure that we have a resume that is as up to date as it can be and uploaded within your profile. So give me one moment. I'm going to jump back a slide here and again show you here under my profile, documents. Resume is considered a document in Handshake. Once we have an updated resume, this is where we'll upload it. So let me move back forward. As you can see here on the screen, there's a sample resume. We'd be glad to share resume resources in the chat or at our drop-ins if that's something you're still continuing to work on. But the key element for your resume within your Handshake profile is to have something that is clear, concise, and consistent. And consistent really means the delivery of your action verbs here, the tense of those action verbs. Generally, we're recommending that, for example, volunteered, canvassed, discussed, assisted. Those are all verbs that would be reflected as in the past. It makes for easy readability. And one thing that we know from our employer and recruiting partners is that they don't spend a lot of time on the resume. So you can see in this example, it's pretty readable at a glance. I can see right away that Jack is studying political science, just graduated. I get a glance at the GPA. I can see various experiences, both directly related to maybe the roles that Jack might be applying to, as well as different skills that they've gained in a variety of other roles, and then honors and activities. There is not a hard and fast rule that it must be one page, but again, with the fast pace of resume review, if you can keep it to one page, that's going to allow for a quicker review of that resume. So again, resume resources are available during drop-ins as well as on our website. I'll ask Katie or Emma to drop in some resume links from our web, as well as that refresher on the drop-in link here too. Any questions about resumes? I see someone typing, so I'm just going to pause for a second and wait. Good question. So the question that's come into the chat is, should my resume have an objective on it? It certainly can. Obviously, this can be personal preference, and some recruiters and organizations will feel very strongly and others won't. So this is why I can't give you a concrete answer. What I will say is that if you're going to put the objective on your resume, it can come right here above this education. So it might be just a quick statement here. It also, like the body of your resume, should be clear, concise, and consistent. So you want it to share in a very general way. Typically, your resume will be tailored to the positions you're applying to. Again, on your Handshake profile, you have a more global resume. You can use specific ones as you're applying to specific jobs, but for the purpose of the fair, you kind of have this one global resume. You want to be as specific as you can be. So in the case of this, I might say, going back to my example from earlier, that I am a business student seeking an accounting internship in the spring of 2023 or 2022. So yes, you can definitely have one. It is not a requirement. If you don't have one, and again, it is okay not to have one, make sure that you're sharing that objective, whatever it is, when you're in these one-on-one sessions during the fair, so that the person with whom you're meeting understands, why you've chosen to show up at their one-on-one session beyond just, tell me more about the jobs and internships that you might have available. Tell them, what is your interest? What are you studying? And, what led you to attend their session? So great question. Thank you for asking. Another question, if you have limited work experience, can relevant coursework be included? Yes, 100%. Experience, I think, sometimes does get convoluted for like paid work experience. It certainly doesn't have to be. So you may have volunteer experiences, you may have group projects that you've worked on in classes, some of which might replicate even more closely than some of your work experiences the transferable skill set for those positions. So you could list under education, for example, a set of relevant courses. You could also pull out from those relevant courses specific projects that you might have worked on and kind of list those either under a separate heading called projects or under experience itself. So great question. I am seeing 2 more questions. So the resume should always be 1 page. Doesn't have to be. There's not a hard and fast rule about that. But certainly for this fair, think about how quickly the recruiters and folks may be reviewing the resume. It can be more than 1 page, but they may not make it all the way. So the information that you feel is most important needs to be what we would call above the fold. So if you considered this a sheet of paper and it was folded in half, what I want someone to pay attention to needs to come at the top half of that page. And then I'm seeing a specific question about an undergraduate degree in medicine internationally or outside of the US. Should I include that doctor, medical doctor, in my name, or does it not count? What I would say to that question is obviously cultural differences will vary. What I would disclose right up front is, at least in the United States, MD is a degree conveyed at a post-baccalaureate level. So while you can certainly list it, it may not be received in the same way. So in that education section for you, make sure that you're listing that international university there on the resume. And if you have very specific questions, please connect with us during drop-ins. All right, I'm going to stop monitoring, but please, Katie and Emma, let me know. I'm going to hop to those introductions. I sort of alluded to this when I mentioned if you were going to leave off or omit an objective, which is totally fine. Think about what you might do as you enter these one-on-one sessions during the fair. So what you see here is an example of what that elevator pitch, if you will, could look like. Now, keep in mind, you're going to come into that room, which could be in Handshake itself, might be in Zoom, Teams, etc., and you'll have 10 minutes. Generally, there will be some quick exchanges. The person sitting on the other end from the company might say, "Hi, I'm Kristen." And you might say, "Hi, I'm Julie." And they might say, "What brings you in today?" At that prompt, this is when you would want to be able to say something like, "Hi, my name's Julie. I'm a junior studying criminal justice. I have a concentration or a major, whatever works for you, in corrections." And then you want to think about what's going to matter to them. Who are you and where are you now? Where have you been and where have you been? What do you bring and where are you going? So you're trying to convey to them very quickly, not just that you're a junior criminal justice major, concentration and corrections, but you can see in these next few sentences, what you want to share is the what do you bring and where are you going. So I have personal experience with family and friends, and I've been able to see how families are affected by the justice system. I'm really interested in pursuing a career to help change that system for the better. I've always been proud of myself for the ways that I'm empathetic and communicate and a communicative student, and I'm seeking opportunities to help others less fortunate than me. Currently, I'm working as an STNA at a nursing home, and I help residents with daily tasks where I get to demonstrate my communication skills, teamwork skills, ensuring that our residents receive quality care. Where am I going? I'm looking for an internship where I can utilize those skills to help those impacted in the criminal justice system. Seems formal. You can see how this is what I would recommend kind of writing out and feeling good about. But you can see how even when I was reading that from the screen, I didn't read it to the letter of the script. I wanted to show, I chose words that felt good to me in that moment as I was talking. I was following, or at least helping to demonstrate how you might follow the tone of the introduction, and really just quickly, in under a minute, have been able to share a little bit with that person that I'm going to be interacting with in that room. So let me pause there, because the elevator pitch is often one of those things that can feel challenging to do. What makes it, I think, feel a little bit challenging is we're not sure what to share. You don't have to share everything. So for example, I wouldn't come in and say, "Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm an architecture major. I have a cat named Hope and 4 parakeets." I want to get to, those are all very interesting things. I would love to spend hours telling you about my cat, and my team knows from the times that we've worked at home that I have 4 very loud parakeets who love to engage on any call or Teams meeting that we have. But what that's not helping me do is be successful in communicating to the employer. So the 4 questions, or the 4 bullet points that you see on the right-hand side of your screen, help us to do that. So remember, who are you and where are you now? This is where you're going to share your name, class level, a degree, or when you're graduating. Where have you been? This is a really quick, brief highlight of the important experiences that you've had, trying to relate to the types of positions that might be open within this company. In this example, I shared personal experiences, but these could be course or project-based experiences. They could be previous jobs, volunteer experiences, or internships. What do I bring? This is where you're going to want to highlight those skills and traits that you think would make you a good candidate. You saw those here in the words like empathetic, communicative, demonstrate communication and teamwork skills. I'm trying to convey things that I've probably made an assumption or a discernment that would be important in whatever the role is with this company, or the types of role that this company might have to offer. And then lastly, where are you going? This tells them what are you looking for. So try to highlight the kinds of positions that you might be interested in. Many of our employers have very specific job postings. You don't have to be limited by that. You can still join a one-on-one, and because you know their organization more broadly, what you want to be doing is mentioning, just as this example did, that I'm looking for a full-time experience, or I'm looking for an internship. The more specific you can be in that first 60 to 75 seconds is going to help guide the conversation, because that's what we want this to pivot or turn into. At the conclusion of this, you might say, "Thank you." Typically, the person on the other end of the one-on-one meeting will then say, "Wow, that's really great. Thanks for sharing so much about yourself, Julie. Let me take some time to share with you about the types of positions we have with company X." Or they might say, again, trying to turn this into a conversation, "Can you tell me more about your role at the nursing home?" And this gives you, now we can kind of relax and take that breather. This gives us that transition into more conversational. So I'm going to pop back over, just make sure I haven't missed anything in the chat. Any questions about elevator pitch? Think of it as an introduction. Okay, Katie and Emma, if anything pops up, interrupt me, let me know that it's there. We're going to go into the logistics for really the next steps for preparing for the fair itself, 2 to 6 p.m. on the 22nd. In Handshake, you will look under events when you log in. All events, you'll see the fair. In this example, registered is grayed out, but if you go in and you find this event and you find that this is a blue or purple or green button, You need to click on it. You need to make sure that you are registering. Once you do this, this will allow you to find the list and the information on the 214 employers who are participating. The list will populate like this. So we see A on here. We'll have a quick overview with information about the organization. I can click on the name of the organization to get more in-depth information. But below that information block, this is where you'll see a group session. Sorry, gotta back up. Or in this case, I'm showing 2 group sessions, but it could also say one-on-one session. You'll notice the difference because of the length of time. It is possible, in this case, you can see that they might just have one type or the other. So for this employer in particular, they're only offering group sessions. So they're really inviting groups of people in to share information to larger groups. The one-on-one sessions will be 10-minute sessions and they'll look the same way. Once I've decided what I want to register for, I'm going to click on that purple, blue, dark blue information below the session, and that's going to take me to the next step. I am seeing a question. So before I move on to the next step, let me look at this. I'm pursuing a master's in computer science. So should I mention where I've been in what do you bring? Yes, those could overlap certainly for you. If you have that prior experience, that would be a great way to kind of think about your pre-master's experiences as what you bring. So great question. So again, I'm going to sign up for a session here by clicking it. It's going to register me, which is to tell that employer that I'll be the person showing up or one of the people showing up. And then you'll come back out to the fair itself. It'll pop you back out to a window and you'll be able to look at your schedule. Your schedule will populate with the blend of group and one-on-one sessions that you sign up for. Again, you don't need to fill every 10-minute session between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. You may decide that you can avail just 1 hour. 2 to 3 is when you can be at the fair. In that case, you might choose 4 organizations that you're looking forward to meeting with tomorrow. That's what would be reflected here under your schedule. So instead of saying no sessions, it would show you all the sessions that you're signing up for. If you do, let me back up. If you do need any assistance creating those schedules, signing up, drop-ins are a great way to walk through that. Or again, during the fair itself, we will have a student help session. But keep in mind, while you can sign up for sessions during the fair, it's always better to kind of have that schedule set up in advance, because sometimes what will have happen at 2 p.m. is that employers will kind of make unavailable the sessions for which students haven't signed up for yet. So your best bet to guarantee that you can meet with folks that you want to is to make sure your scheduled sessions are set by, I would say at the very latest, noon on Wednesday. So spend some time today and tomorrow if you haven't set those sessions. All right, I see a question coming in, so I'm going to pause for just a second. How many sessions can we sign up for? Mathematically, let me see if I can do this. So you could sign up for potentially a max of 6 sessions per hour times 4 hours is 24 sessions. That's assuming they're all one-on-one sessions. I wouldn't necessarily encourage that. Keep in mind that sometimes sessions, although they have a 10-minute window, don't end precisely on time. So you want to give yourself some natural buffers in that window. At the very least, I'd give yourself a 10-minute break out of every hour just for quality of life in case you need to get up and take a stretch, get something to drink, or use the restroom, for example. But 24 would be the max mathematically. If you were doing all group sessions, that's 2 sessions an hour times 4 would be 8. So you can see there's kind of a number of combinations that you could potentially have depending on whether you were signing up for one-on-one and group sessions. But the right mix I always recommend is thinking about 10 employers, 10 organizations that you want to meet with. In this case, quality sometimes can be more important than quantity. If there's an employer that you really wanted to meet with that you didn't get to meet with, this next slide will actually kind of cover both. If you've met with folks, we always encourage this, following up with the folks that you've met with. So send a follow-up email reiterating something that you talked about during the session, your interest in something they shared, whether it was a group session or an information session. If you did have that one-on-one session, make sure that email addresses, just gratitude, so thanking them. And then LinkedIn connections. We would recommend that most of our employers who are attending will have, probably even mention it, will have a LinkedIn profile. This is a good opportunity to keep that connection going outside of Handshake, and maybe you send an invitation to connect with them on LinkedIn. Not to worry if you don't have a LinkedIn profile set up or feel like it's ready to go. We can help with that even after the fair. These things should happen kind of in a sequential order: follow up, thank you, LinkedIn, with some different time frames. So definitely follow up and thank yous within 24 hours. LinkedIn, you have a little more time. I would recommend trying to make those connections if it's something you're planning on doing within about a week or a week's time after the fair. But I also mentioned just a moment ago, what happens if there was an employer I really wanted to meet with, but all their one-on-one sessions were full, or I was already booked for a one-on-one or a group session at the times when they had openings. The nice thing is, in the fair itself, I'm able to see contact information for the person who is attending that day. So even if I didn't get to meet with them, I can still send a quasi follow-up email. So even though I didn't meet with you, it could start with something to that effect. I was unable to make a connection with your team today during the fair due to scheduling, da 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 da. You can share your interest without having to actually have made that connection, and the connection can happen a variety of different ways. Again, would still recommend connecting on LinkedIn, or maybe then also scheduling a follow-up via phone, or you might say something, is there another opportunity that we could meet? This is a good chance for me to share that a number of our employers, this happens after every fair, but specifically because we're in a virtual setting and a number of our employers are looking for opportunities to connect in person and on campus. A number of our employers will have information tables or information sessions in the coming weeks. So expect the next 2 or 3 weeks to still be checking Handshake, because there will be tables popping up in the rotunda, second floor of the Student Center, information sessions that we'll be posting on Handshake as well. I'm seeing a question, will there be any other career fairs after September 22nd? Great question, and the answer is yes. So I am navigating and trying to do multiple things at one time. I'm going to drop in the link, our calendar of events for career exploration and development. This showcases a number of virtual and in-person networking events and fairs, which are happening. Really, this is sort of the kickoff of that calendar throughout the month of October. Many are industry specific. So this is kind of our broadest fair, but many are industry specific, focusing on IT and business, nursing, public health, construction management, et cetera, et cetera. The key is, don't discount the fair because you may not be interested in the industry. Take a look at the employers who are coming or the organizations who are attending, and then you can kind of make that discernment if you would be interested in attending. So thank you. All great questions. I mentioned our 3 next steps following up. So here's an example of that. I'm going to use a subject line, trying to maintain that proper email etiquette. I want to be specific in that subject. This is a virtual career fair networking request. Dear whoever I met with, writing to continue to express my interest based on your registration or your participation in this fair. Again, kind of like the elevator pitch. I am a, who am I? What do I want? Where am I going? And then a gratitude. I look forward to speaking with you. Best, sincerely, something simple, not a book, not anything lengthy here. All right, taking a deep breath. I've been talking for about 40 minutes now, so I want to make sure that you all have time for Q&A. But as we wrap up, remember, we're preparing. We're going to update our Handshake profile, which includes updating and uploading our resume. If you need assistance with that, don't hesitate. There's several drop-in shifts, 2 tomorrow and 1 before the fair on Wednesday. Work on that elevator pitch, that introduction. 2, if you haven't, very important that you register in Handshake, preferably today or tomorrow, so that you have time to view and sign up for those employer sessions. Attend the event itself. Remember, as we registered, we saw our schedule. You don't have to sit on your computer between 2 and 6, but it is very important that you log in about 10 minutes before your sessions might begin. So check those settings. We have help sessions set up, but we also have help tips within your registration so that you're checking your microphone and testing your audio. And Handshake has some of that built in. And then remember, follow up. The fair is ending at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. It's okay to take a break, have some dinner, do whatever. But by Thursday morning, make sure you're sending those thank you emails. Making those LinkedIn connections could take a little bit longer, but send those thank yous and follow-up emails shortly after the fair. All right, number of ways I've mentioned a couple of times that you can connect with us. Drop-ins is the one I keep reiterating, but you can also touch base with us on social, and we're promoting a variety of fair tips all week this week. So all of our handles are the same on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and then you can search for us on LinkedIn under Kent State University Career Exploration and Development and join our group as well. So thank you for attending. I'm going to hang around Katie and Emma. Any questions that I missed in the chat? I tried to follow it, but I'm not sure if I missed anything. And if you have questions, attendees, please pop those in or feel free to raise your hand.
Nope, I think we got them all.
Awesome. Katie, Emma, I'll ask you too. Anything that you want to share, advice for our attendees this evening as they approach the fair on Wednesday?
I would say one thing is just to be yourself. It is crazy to be doing this, obviously virtually, but just put a smile on your face and present yourself the best way that you can. And the employers will really appreciate that. And like Kristen said, there are a bunch of opportunities too. So this is a great way to start that process, but this isn't the end. And every single time you network and talk to someone, you're just having a better chance at finding a right opportunity for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Emma.
I absolutely agree with all of that too. Don't be afraid to, stick your fingers in a bunch of different pies, really grab those opportunities as they come up.
Absolutely. So I did see a question come in regarding getting a phone number or a contact. My advice to you here is if they've provided a phone number, it will show up in that profile. So let me go back a couple of slides here and show you where you would see that information. In, for example, this corporation's information, if I'm on a slide, so it's a screenshot, but if I clicked on the Aon Corporation there, in Handshake, in the real environment, it would take me, so actually give me a second and I'm going to do that. There may be an opportunity to ascertain phone number information, but take the employer or the organization's lead on the way that they want to be contacted for any number of reasons, because this is recruiting season and they might be traveling, so they're not at their desk or they're not checking phone numbers, or their organization simply prefers to route all recruiting through email, for example. Take their lead on that. So you might. So I guess I'm saying I wouldn't necessarily ask for it, but there might be ways that you can get it. So give me a second. And what I want to show you is where that would be in Handshake. So I am going to reshare my screen here. This is my student, or what the student side of Handshake, which is what you all will see, looks like. To get to the fair, I've clicked on events. I can see, because this fair is upcoming, it's right here. I haven't registered, so there's that purple or blue button. I would click register. I will just for today, and then I'll unregister, deregister myself. You can see there's a brief survey that's going to help us know some information, like how did you find out about this? So I'm going to quickly just randomly pick some answers for the purposes of this, but you can see even if you were answering it quite accurately, it wouldn't take you more than 30 seconds or so. Oh, I haven't answered all the questions. That's why I couldn't move. All right, so I'm successfully registered. You can see my survey answers, and now I can look at those available sessions. So to the question in the chat, what I want to show you is If I want to learn more about Union Home Mortgage, in here, sometimes, now I get to see all of the available sessions, there will be a phone number listed. If that phone number is listed here, that is a great way to know more. If it's not, then I'm only going to get this information that Emily Kuba is going to be the person who I'm meeting with. Lots of times they're going to put their information out here to their general website. No matter what, you can ask for that contact information. Again, I think email is probably what's most likely to be shared when you're in those one-on-one sessions. Now, I'm not going to sign up for a session because I don't want to take a session away from a student. But as an example, I would click on that and click confirm. And then if I were to navigate back here to my schedule, instead of seeing no sessions, it would show me that I was meeting with Union Home Mortgage at 2:50 p.m. that day. On the day of the fair, I'm going to come right back to this same screen, and clicking on my schedule would see my sessions, and this no sessions link would be my link to log in and start meeting, or not log in because I'm already logged in, but connect and start meeting in my one-on-one session. So really great question about following up and phone numbers, and hopefully what I just shared is also helpful to you in terms of the fair itself. Other questions? All right, well, we'll hang around for the next few minutes, but I'd like to really thank you all for attending, wish you all luck, reiterate what both Katie and Emma said. Be yourself, be confident. We're here to help over the next couple of days, and those help session links are available to you. In fact, under the career fair details, we give a whole rundown of this, as well as how to prepare. Everything we talked about today is literally in that career fair details. So make sure that you look there if you have any other questions. Yes, Alicia asks, is there a recording? It's going to be in here. We're still recording, so we have to hit stop recording, but it'll be in this chat. And it will not be emailed, but it will be available and in the Handshake resource library. So I'm going to go back out here just to show you. If I click on Career Center, there's a resources library in there. It's not uploaded there yet, again, because we are still recording, but it will be there soon. And I'm seeing a little bit confused on how the 10-minute one-on-one works. Let me go back and try and show you. 10-minute one-on-one is just a scheduled time for you to meet with the employer. So in an in-person fair, we typically would walk up to a table and have that introduction quickly, that elevator pitch. That introduction would happen, face to face. In this case, because we're scheduling a time, so let me use just a different Mercy Health here. I'm going to schedule a time with Mercy Health. If I click 4:10 and confirm, at 4:10, I'm going to make sure I'm on my computer and that I come back to my schedule up here, and it would show under my schedule, and click. That's going to launch a video session where myself and the recruiter from Mercy Health connect. So to answer your question in terms of your elevator pitch, what is likely to happen is you'll log into that session and there'll be some pleasant exchanges like, hello, I'm Ramon, or hi, I'm Kristen. And at that point, when the recruiter says, hi, I'm Kristen, you might say, hi, I'm Ramon, and start that elevator pitch. Remember, the elevator pitch is going to be about 30 seconds, and it's really meant to be a springboard so that they can either share more information with you or ask some follow-up questions of you. Does that help a little bit? Awesome. All right, well, thank you again, everyone. We really want to wish you all the best as you attend the fair on Wednesday, connect with us, and let us know what we can help. Yeah, it's a little bit more like an information session, but again, at the fair, you would be standing in front of a table at an in-person fair. You'd be in front of a table with maybe other folks waiting. This is your own 10 minutes dedicated to you. You're welcome. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. We'll go ahead and wrap on the recording.